Czosnowsk with blue-white control against Zach Elsik playing blue-white gift.
His name's so long it doesn't even fit on the graphic.
It is a pretty long
Can
name.
we scoot Zach Elsik's name over a little bit so Brandon's whole name gets up there?
Brandon is he's coming in strong with the tough last name, the tough long last name. But both these players, 9-3, still very much in top 8 contention. They are going to have to win out here. Maybe one or two X4s will make the top 8. We'll have to see. I
think it might actually be a little more than that.
Really?
I saw that, well, on the players to watch, Emma Handy is in 30th place currently with an 8-4 record. And, usually around 30th place, you can usually win 2 or 3 matches in a row and make top 8 if that's the number of rounds left.
Okay.
With 4 to go, it leads me to believe that more X4s are likely to make it in. And this is a 350-person tournament, 16 rounds, 0 buys in factor, so anything can happen.
All right, looks like Elsik's going to take a mulligan down at 6 cards here. Again, Elsik, Grand Prix Oklahoma City champion a couple of years ago with Lantern Control, really helped establish that deck and show that it is just no flash in the pan. It's actually real, so real, in fact, it actually won Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan as well. Haven't seen a ton this weekend. It's definitely on the fringes of Modern most recently, but it is a very, very good deck, his Lantern Control in Modern, and we'll see if he's found something that works here with his take on Gift. Not a deck that we see a ton of, but it is, when it's positioned well, it's kind of unstoppable.
Yeah, there's a lot of different builds of God Pharaoh's Gift, which led me to believe that there was the potential for it to get banned at some point, just because the package of 4 copies of Gate to the Afterlife coupled with 2 God Pharaoh's Gift could go in virtually any strategy where you could sacrifice your own creatures, or you just had a lot of little creatures that did things that put spells and creatures into the graveyard. We saw a mono red version featuring Skark Prospector, the new addition from Dominaria, as well as Siege Gang Commander, and that one was pretty interesting. This version, however, skews the Gate to the Afterlife in favor of just going for the combo-ish version using Refurbish, which of course, 4-mana sorcery, return target artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield.
You see, Elsik is going to chart a course there. He'll draw 2 cards and discard 1. He discarded a copy of Angel of Invention for Czosnowsk.
You know how I know Zach doesn't play Legacy very much?
His Graveyard Order?
Yes.
Yes, there's a Champion of Wits. We'll see if that does resolve, and it will. So Elsik will draw 2.
There are a lot of threats from Zach Elsik's side that could be difficult for the blue-white deck to contain over the course of the entire game. I expect these to be pretty long and grindy games, and probably going to go all the way to 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we work ourselves close to the clock here, unless Zach is able to put together a pretty aggressive draw. We're going to see a couple of cards be placed in the graveyard there. It looks like Shalai and Refurbish from Champion. It looks like Brandon wants to take a look at Shalai, and we can take a look also at the new Angel from Dominaria. It is a very good one. A lot of relevant text on that creature. Also very good against Settle the Wreckage, as it gives you, planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control, hexproof. The only thing that doesn't have hexproof, of course, is Shalai. You have to kill that first before you take care of other things. For Brandon, his turn is very boring. Just plays a basic land and passes the turn back over to Elsik, who will play another copy of Champion of Wits.
Yeah, that's what you do. As a control player, you hit your land drops, you counter the important spells, you exile the important creatures, and you hope that stuff like Torrential Gearhulk and Teferi is going to get the job done.
Elsik going to draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards here in just a moment. Among those cards, Thopter Arrest, that's going to go to the graveyard, as will Angel of Invention.
It looks like Zach Elsik is actually flooded with refurbishes. He's already discarded 1. He has 2 more in hand, but he has yet to find a God Pharaoh's Gift and all these looting effects. The chart, the course, the 2 copies of Champion of Wits. He's dug through 6 extra cards already, but still no God Pharaoh's Gift.
Back over to Brandon. We're going to go. He'll play a copy of Seal Away. That's going to take care of Champion of Wits. And we'll head back over to our blue-white control player, who will draw a card. His 4th turn of the game might just be another land and say go, as he plays an island, and that's all he will do. So we'll go back over to Zach Elsik now. Elsik's turn's a lot more interesting. There's a lot more going on Elsik's side of the battlefield. We'll see where he wants to start now. This will be a strategic planning. You see Brandon wants to take a look at that. We'll do the same for those of you at home. Strategic planning wants a very, very expensive card because it's all playing vintage.
It's all playing vintage, and its only printing, I believe, was in Portal of some variety, maybe Portal 3 Kingdoms.
I believe that's correct.
It was reprinted in, I believe, Rivals of Ixalan. No, that's Amonkhet. Hour of Devastation. That's the one.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you see strategic planning from Portal 3 Kingdoms. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard.
Hilariously enough, strategic planning was insanely good in Vintage alongside things like Goblin Welder, just ways to put artifacts into the graveyard so that you could use these cheap things to return them. And Zach Elsik is using a very similar strategy, using Refurbish to return a very expensive and powerful artifact.
Elsik tried to resolve a Search for Escante, a very powerful legendary enchantment, but that got disallowed by Brandon.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Brandon just slam a Teferi here. If he has a negate, this is 100% Teferi, tick up, draw a card, untap, hold up, negate. However, if he has a disallow or something, he may want to pump the brakes, wait till he hits one more land so he gets up to 3 mana.
Well, he's not going to slam Teferi just yet. He will wait. Will Czosnowsk. And now here comes an attack for 2.
This little chip damage will add up over time, but Zach's draw very anemic here. He's played a lot of draw spells and still just can't find that God Pharaoh's Gift to put into the graveyard.
Back to Brandon we're going to go now. 5 lands on the battlefield. We'll see number 6 here in just a moment. Looks like it might just be an island. And it will be. Again, he does have Teferi in hand. He's kind of shuffling between that. Not sure if it's time to drop the Hero of Dominaria just yet, but he is considering it. For now, he'll just pass the turn back over to Elsik, who is struggling along. Picked up another copy of Strategic Planning, though, it appears.
So with Elsik missing his 6th land drop, I think Brandon may have had this window to resolve with Teferi, just because Zach would need specifically a 2-mana looting effect of some kind, find the God Pharaoh's Gift, and also have Refurbish after discarding one. However, it is a little bit of a dangerous play. Your opponent does get to bring back Angel of Invention, which is a 6/6, and it would squish Teferi immediately if you didn't have a mana or an answer that cost 3 or less mana.
Here's Strategic Planning post-combat. As Elsik has knocked Brandon down to 12. 12 a long way to go, though. I do agree with you. Those hits will add up over time, but, boy, he's got a lot more work to do. Strategic Planning is going to put a couple of cards into the graveyard. Which one we got there?
That's Inspiring Cleric, I believe. We should get that one on the screen. Inspiring Cleric is a newer addition to this deck. An interesting one at that.
It's good against red. I'm curious about how good the rest of his deck is against red. But 3 mana, 3/2, whenever Inspiring Cleric enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. That's the old Vampire Cleric there.
Yeah, cards like Inspiring Cleric give a life buffer to these Blue-White Gift decks, and it gives them time to set up their God Pharaoh's Gift turns. And when you're able to utilize that trigger more than once with the God Pharaoh's Gift, sometimes that can put you out of burn range. And when you start putting a lot of threats on the battlefield with God Pharaoh's Gift, the life buffer is usually what you need to make sure that they can't kill you and steal the game out from under you.
Teferi has joined the battlefield now. It, of course, went up. Drew Brandon a card, untapped a couple of lands, and now it is the center of attention for Zach Elsik as that Champion of Wits is headed over to the Hero of Dominaria, knocked it down to 3. A Minister of Inquiries does show up now there for Zach Elsik, so he can turn his deck on a little bit more and start milling cards, turn on those copies of Refurbish in hand for now. Teferi will draw Brandon a card. Looks like a copy of Glacial Fortress.
This is kind of the nightmare scenario for Elsik. You know, his deck didn't really function in the way that he needed it to in the early turns. He had the potential for a turn 4 Refurbish on a God Pharaoh's Gift, but just couldn't find it in time.
Those lands will be untapped there by Brandon, and he will pass the turn back over to Elsik. Elsik looks like he may have picked up a copy of Ipnu Rivulet.
Now, he does have God Pharaoh's Gift in hand. I wouldn't be surprised if he just spends all 7 mana this turn, casts it, lets it get countered by Brandon's Disallow or some such, and then over the next few turns just uses Refurbish over and over again to try to stick it onto the battlefield. Brandon, however, can just tick down Teferi if he wants and put it 2 cards deeper, which invalidates a lot of what Zach is trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the issue here, and Teferi is kind of starting to flex its muscles on this game. You mentioned the ability to tuck away the God Pharaoh's Gift. If he's not doing that, he's going to be drawing cards, and if that's not happening, of course, Teferi is going to be the center of attention for Elsik. He might have to attack it with a Minister of Inquiries, too. And you'll see this. We might actually see our first copy of Settle the Wreckage in the match, and that's where things really do get tough for Zach Elsik. And there is Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, not being able to put any pressure on this Teferi. As long as Brandon has a way to deal with this post-combat God Pharaoh's Gift. And Zach, even though the creature gains haste off of God Pharaoh's Gift, wanting Brandon to use the majority of his mana here to deal with the threats that are coming at Teferi. Like if Brandon had something like Torrential Gearhulk as his only means of protection, he may have wanted to cast that during combat, which would leave him vulnerable to a post-combat God Pharaoh's Gift. However, Zach going for a safer play. The only thing that affects Champion of Wits out of the graveyard is Disallow, and using that to boost up his hand quite a bit.
Champion of the Witch has been eternalized, so Elsik will draw 4 cards and discard 2. Perhaps he'll find a little something better here. There you see the Minister, and it looks like a God Pharaoh's Gift go to the graveyard.
Yeah, and that'll turn on the Refurbishes for sure. I don't hate Zach just hard casting the God Pharaoh's Gift, though. If it eats a counter, I think that's more than fine because it still goes to the graveyard.
Well, it looks like now he's on the double refurbish plan. Just try to power it through 2 spells in 1 turn. We'll see how that's going to work out for Elsik as we, of course, watch Brandon use Teferi, minus and take care of that Eternalized Champion of the Wits. There's an Arc of Orzhaka.
That's a gooder.
City's Blessing is online, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like he has more than enough. He has 11, I believe, with the seal away. And all he needs 10. This is Arch of Vraska just functioning like an extra Search for Ensconce on occasion, except, you know, it doesn't cost any mana.
Yep. Here is Refurbish.
Yeah, it's possible here with only 1 copy of God Pharaoh's Gift in the graveyard. Brandon actually just uses the cast out here instead of using a counter spell. Really heads up play, recognizing that a second Refurbish not really a threat if you're able to put the God Pharaoh's Gift on the battlefield and then exile it.
Yeah, this is like much what you see with red decks, of course, when they abrade this thing. Cast out's going to do a similar role. Going to play a similar role here, excuse me. Looks like this will be Chart a Course. And I see a lot of spinning of the tires here, Todd, but not much more than that here from Zach Elsik.
Interestingly enough, in order to not get the trigger off of God Pharaoh's Gift, Brandon has to stop Zach during his first main phase with the cast out. So this allows Zach to follow that up with another loot spell, discards God Pharaoh's Gift, and then cast another Refurbish, so he still has a chance. Unfortunately for him, Brandon more than ready with a Syncopate.
Yep. Refurbishes are not resolving right now, that's for sure. And if they are, that's because Brandon's letting them, as Brandon will draw an island, and we'll see him take up the Teferi. Another card coming here for our blue-white control player.
That's a good one.
Yeah, this is not getting any easier here for Zach Elsik, as now Torrential Gearhulk has been the draw.
Yeah, and with a Disallow in the graveyard, it's going to be really tough for Zach to fight through this. The Teferi every turn, drawing cards, as well as the potential to draw cards off Arch of Vraska.
This is just a lot to overcome. It does make you wonder a little bit why. I know that, Chain Whirler was, of course, the story of Pro Tour Dominaria, but these blue-white control decks look good.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I personally, I'm on the side of things where I want to be playing blue-black. I just think Vraska's Contempt and Fatal Push are very good right now. The white versions using Seal Away Gearhulk, not really my cup of tea. That combination of cards just, it makes me uncomfortable.
Well,
I want my Gearhulk to be able to use removal spells, on occasion.
In addition to counter spells, I'm
right.
sure. Well, Disallow is the counter spell that Torrential Gearhulk did use to take care of that God Pharaoh's Gift. Now you'll see Charter Course here from Zach once again. Again, his goal is just to get a God Pharaoh's Gift on the battlefield and get something from it, which he's having some real difficulty doing.
Yeah, I mean, the shields are a little bit down here from Brandon's side of things. His hand is just another Teferi, but he has a draw step, a tick up from Teferi, and an activation of Arch of Vraska, so he's very likely to find something out of the next 3 cards of his deck.
Well, he'll draw 1 card. He'll tick up Teferi. He'll draw a 2nd card. Cast out is there. That counts.
The end.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see a world where Zach peels the 4th Refurbish, casts it, gets God Pharaoh's Gift back, but then, Brandon just has the cast out for it.
Torrential Gearhulk going to rumble in the jungle, going to knock Elsik down to 15. And Zach is going to untap that large swath of lands here in just a moment. But for Brandon, of course, the Teferi trigger means that he will target his own lands. That's why you saw him tap and untap them very quickly. Elsik will cycle at Irrigated Farmland, and he will draw a card for that and draw a card for the turn.
I would like to see a main phase of activation of Arch of Vareska. If he doesn't have something like Syncopate in hand, you know, you might want to draw an extra card, and you might have enough mana to do that with the untapping of 2.
Elsik going to pick up a couple of cards here. Do a little bit of discarding. And you see that Brandon would like to get an idea of what's working in Elsik's graveyard to his favor, which the truth is not a ton right now.
I mean, even though Elsik's been on the back foot this entire game, you know, he's resolved 2 backsides of Champion of Wits. You know, he's filtered through a lot of cards. He's cast a lot of very powerful spells, but Brandon's just had to answer it every turn because he's not been under a lot of pressure, and he's been able to develop his battlefield, develop his mana, and draw a ton of cards with Teferi.
A strategic planning there from Elsik. Of course, puts 1 card in his hand, and a couple into the graveyard. Ah, yes. Elsik knows that Brandon and most don't know what Hostile Desert does.
Oh, I sure do.
Yeah, we can take a look. This one doesn't get turned on a ton, but it's not a bad creature land.
I misread this when it was first previewed and thought that it was just exile a card from your graveyard, and I thought it was busted.
Yeah, not quite that good.
No. 2. What do you want from me?
2, exile a land card, not any card from your graveyard. If it was any card, every deck would play 4.
Yeah.
That'd be way
That's
too
why
good.
I thought it was gas.
Yeah. Hostile Desert becomes a 3/4 elemental creature until the turn. It's still a land, of course. I think it might be better than Mutavolt then. I don't know. Maybe that's hyperbolic. Exile any card. 3/4 rumbling on in there.
Look, it's not a fairy.
That's true.
It's not a merfolk.
That's true too. It's not a rat for pack rat.
Right.
Still good nonetheless. That's for sure.
Elsik's actually getting dangerously low on cards left in deck, and with Brandon having Imnu Rivulets in his deck, he might actually win this game via decking before he wins with Torrential Gearhold.
That's actually in play here, oddly enough, as there is an Imnu Rivulet. Elsik, as you mentioned, he's gone through a lot of cards between Champion of the Wits, the first and second parts of it, of course. We've seen Jim just starting to mill himself a little bit with Minister of Inquiries. Chart of Course. It's gone through a lot of cards. Not quite sure what the question is here. Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, not this again.
Not again. Not again. Someone get out the picnic baskets.
Oh, boy. Well, we already had this once this weekend. What's the second time? CJ Crooks explained this once already. It has to do with the sleeves, and if you're playing a checklist card or a real card, and I would absolutely love to come back to the booth because now things might get a touch awkward as we are going to bring a judge into the equation about the, I believe the word I'm looking for is opacity?
Opacity.
Opacity of the sleeves?
It refers to whether or not it is opaque.
Yes. Yes, and if you were not with us earlier in the weekend, Joseph Ferrer did pick up a game loss in round number 6 as he was playing with Search for Escanta in sleeves, not using a checklist card. The sleeves were not opaque. It's not opaque enough. Is that what I want?
Well, so there's levels. There's transparent, translucent, and opaque. Okay. Translucent is in the middle where you can kind of see through it. Transparent, obviously, being clear.
Sure.
So most of these sleeves that you can buy that aren't black or very dark colors, you know, you can. It's not like you can see the whole card, but sometimes you can differentiate whether the card that you're looking at has a text box on it. Or
sure,
not.
Sure.
And when a Magic card has is double faced, you know, it looks different in a sleeve than a card with a normal Magic back.
This is where I would normally throw to who Ed Hockley for the NFL or Steve Javie in the NBA and say, hey, explain what's going on, and then everyone wants to turn off the TV because it's horrible. Because who wants to listen to referees?
I'm going to take a second here. Yesterday, I was a little aggressive towards Joseph Ferreira.
Oh.
I rubbed a few people in the Twitch chat the wrong way, and I hurt Joseph's feelings a little bit, and I want to say I apologize. If it's a real feel bad when something like this happens, and judge calls like this and game losses and such happen fairly frequently in Magic tournaments, and you know, while I expect most players who play on the tour quite a bit to I hold them to a higher standard than others.
Sure.
But I was a little mean, and I apologize.
Well, fair enough. We do appreciate that, and we'll see what our ruling is. I'm not entirely sure where we are in this stage of things, so someone's going to communicate in my ear right now. It looks like we're getting the head judge. Lovely. Well.
All right, so let's talk about something else.
Okay.
So later tonight we have Vintage Top 8.
We do.
I have been on the Versus series for quite a while now, and over the last few months we have been playing a bit of Vintage. I personally really like Paradoxical Outcome. What are your thoughts on that card in the format?
I think PO is really good. I was talking to some Vintage players here this weekend saying that that card might need to be restricted moving forward. One, because it's just a very good card, but two, it feels a lot like when someone is going off with Second Sunrise.
Sure.
The opponent just sits there for 15 minutes, and it's just like, okay, am I dead yet? And the answer is yes, but I have to go through all the motions and do these things, which is obviously not a great play experience. This is just what I've heard secondhand. I have not actually been a part of this experience like I was with Eggs back in Modern.
So when I've played the deck, I think twice now on the Versus series. We don't get to play a ton of Vintage because, you know, the cards are very expensive, and I'm not trying to take Jonathan Suarez's Mishra's Workshops and shuffle them.
Yeah, I would hope not. I don't think Suarez would like that very much.
But normally when I cast Paradoxical Outcome, I draw roughly 4 cards. It's rare that I draw another Paradoxical Outcome and just do it again.
Okay.
When you do that, it is very busted, but it's fast. You know, it's not like they're sitting there for a long time. The trick is that it's just a card draw engine, very similar to something like Gush, and Gush was restricted for a while, and it feels better than Gush in a lot of ways because sometimes it generates mana, like Gush did, as well as just being free most of the time because there's so many mana artifacts in the format. And when you have a draw engine like that, it's very easy to just assemble a Tinker for a big thing and have 2 ways to protect it with like Force of Will, Middle Misstep, but also you just assemble Vault Key very easily.
Fair enough. Well, here's our update. 2 updates. 1, Vintage later tonight for those of you who are unaware. 2, unfortunately for Brandon, he is going to be given a game loss.
And some checklist cards.
And some checklist cards. And we might find the opportunity to bring a judge in here yet again to explain that ruling for those of you who are not with us yesterday, so we can kind of discuss that and educate you viewers and wonderful Magic players at home. For now, we take a short commercial break, of course. Let's hear from our sponsors, and then game number 2. Hi. 2 times in 1 week, and isn't this exciting? This time we have a different judge. Before we had CJ Crooks, this time we have Paul Baronet. Paul, how are you? Don't need to push that down. Just talk.
All right,
Just talk.
great.
That one.
Okay.
So this is fun. So we have a button that only our directors can hear us. You guys can't see it up here. He's new in the booth, but he is not new to judging. You're a level, I want to guess 3?
I'm level 3 judge.
Level 3,
yes.
perfect. So
Yeah.
you were there to adjudicate what just happened.
Correct.
2 goals here. One, where I just want to explain exactly what happened to the viewers at home, and then how they can educate themselves, make sure it doesn't happen to them. So I will let you take it away because I know none of the things.
All right. So our coverage staff, who are judges, noticed that they could see one of our players' double face cards distinctly from the others. That could do that through the back of the sleeves, which does happen a lot with double face cards.
Yep.
Really, any brand of sleeves might happen. The best way to avoid this is by using the checklist cards that Wizards provides. They're in pretty much every booster pack where you might have a double face card these days. Just mark those very clearly with what your double face card is. Search for Escanta, Bloodfast, and just use that. That way there's going to be no distinction between any of the regular cards and double face cards in your deck.
Easiest solution, just double face cards. That'll take care of it. I know that CJ said this, and you probably agree. If you have any questions about your sleeves, you can always just ask a judge.
Yep, please come and talk to a judge before your match or even between rounds. We're happy to take a look at it, help you out. We know that you want to just play Magic and not do anything shady. We want to help you make that happen as well.
And plus, judges are nice. I've known Paul for a long time. Don't be afraid to call them. That's what they're here to do. They're here to help. They also want to make sure that people don't cheat. Not implying anyone's cheating in this match, but we want to make sure they don't. We want to have it on the up and up here, on the SCG Tour, Grand Prix, Pro Tours, everywhere. That's why Paul's here. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Cedric.
Appreciate you. Todd's back in here in a second. We'll see you guys for Game 2 in a moment.
The SCG Tour is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, where you can now order Rivals of Ixalan boxes, cases, bundles, combo packs, and more. Visit us at StarCityGames.com and order your Rivals of Ixalan products today.
All right, we're back. Todd Anderson's back in the booth. I'm never leaving the booth, no matter what happens with these situations. I'm just ball and chain, never leaving ever. Game 2 is about to be underway. I think we can jump down there and take a look at the sideboards with any luck. And if that is true, we will do that. So we're going to watch game number 2 here between Zach, Elsik. Yeah, let's just throw it down right now then, if they're resolving mulligans. So great. And Zach is going to 6, and we will watch game number 2 here in just a moment.
So Brandon found a way to lose game 1.
Unfortunately,
it was not via a game of Magic, but it happens. That's part of tournaments. You need to follow protocol. There have been issues in the past with double-faced cards. You know, as a tournament longtime regular, even I have made that mistake before. I caught it, but I still made it. So in this matchup for sideboarding, I think Brandon wants to stay the control deck. You know, normally you want History Benalia for the blue-eye control mirrors, but this gift deck is not going to transition into a control strategy, and he doesn't need to close the games faster. Forsake the Worldly is obviously very good because it helps contain the God Pharaoh's Gifts and it exiles too, which is important against Refurbish. Negate seems fairly good just as a way to keep him off of Refurbish, plus there's just a ton of targets. The Blue-Eye gift deck is about half spells, half creatures, you know.
Yeah, for Elsik, he's got some negates over that I'm sure he'll bring in a couple of other options as well, but these players are about to start playing. We want to let them get underway, so we will pull these sideboards down. We'll pull the match up, and let's watch game number 2 between Czosnowsk and Elsik. A Glacial Fortress is where we will start.
A lot of Glacial Fortresses in this mirror match.
Yeah, a lot of Glacial Fortresses, I think, in the standard portion of this tournament, honestly. Because there's a Plains, and here is a checklist card.
We got him. He joined the Star City Weekly sale just in time.
That is the search for Skanta. Well, if you can't laugh, you can't do anything in life. Chart a course here for Elsik. He'll discard
What am I supposed to do?
Godfarrow's gift. I'm
People are
not
getting
blaming
game
you.
losses left and right.
I'm not blaming you, man.
I'm just trying to make light of the situation.
I'm not blaming you. Trust me. Glimmer of Genius is going to be placed in the graveyard from the search for his Kanta. Czosnowsk will now play a Memorial to Genius. And we'll go back over to Elsik, who's drawn a copy of Refurbish.
Memorial to Genius actually seeing quite a bit of play in these blue-white control decks. Land enters the battlefield, taps for blue, but later in the game, if you're starting to flood out a bit, you can cash it in for 2 fresh cards. It's kind of expensive, but with most of your spells being played at instant speed, you occasionally have the ability to just pop it off without fear of getting destroyed by anything.
It'll be a strategic planning. A couple cards are going to the graveyard of planes for the turn. Let's go back over to Czosnowsk. I'll put.
I wonder if he actually. Oh, okay. There's a black checkbox. Okay.
Yeah, no,
there. Maybe it's.
Obviously, the checklist cards are just going to be flowing now. As we head back over to Zach.
Look, he got a great discount.
He did free. I think it was the full free discount here on the checklist cards. As we head back over to Brandon, he'll put Pull from Tomorrow into the graveyard. It looks like he may have found land number 4.
Yeah, he really needed that land. Pull from Tomorrow is going to be one of the better cards in this grindy post-board game.
Ooh.
And he very clearly needed to hit that land. The one he found off the top, put it directly onto the battlefield.
Forsake the Worldly here from Zach Elsik is going to attempt to take care of that search for his Kanta, and that is going to work. So that is taken care of. Let's go back over to Zach now, who will untap those 3 lands and draw a card. He has Refurbish in hand. He has Godfarrow's Gift in the graveyard. He would just like to, flip those around.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that Forsake the Worldly was more of a bait spell, trying to get Brandon to fight over it so that Zach could untap and resolve a Godfarrow's Gift.
There's Nest and Scatter on Angel of Invention. I don't think Zach minds if that gets countered. It's good on the battlefield. It's fine in the graveyard because it'll come back, ideally, via Godfarrow's Gift as we head back over to Elsik.
Yeah, if Elsik has Negate, I would not be surprised for him to go Refurbish plus hold up Negate and hope that that's enough to force it through. Of course, the blue-eye control deck from Brandon could have 2 copies of Negate to fight with just the 4 mana.
Angel Sanction is the card that Czosnowsk is taking a look at here. It's a card that does have Embalm. So Elsik does have the ability to bring it back. The Embalm cost, of course, is 6 for the 3/4 Flying Angel. And when it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanents. That's important. So perhaps we'll see that work its way into the equation over the course of the game as Czosnowsk has missed another land drop here. Things not going particularly well for Brandon in this game.
Or last game.
Yeah.
Until the end, anyway.
Chart a course here for Elsik. He'll draw 2 cards.
It's kind of fun to me. Chart the Course is a pretty unique card in that it usually incentivizes you to attack before you cast it so that you get to draw 2 cards. But the looting effect of just draw 2, discard 1 is actually potent in this blue-white gift strategy because it unlocks Refurbish for Godfarrow's Gift out of the graveyard.
Looks like strategic planning has found a card. The rest of these cards are going to go in the graveyard, of course. Elsik is just digging very hard for a copy Negate at this point, I think. He's already got Refurbish in his hand. He's got the necessary lands to be able to play Refurbish plus Negate. I think he's just missing out on Negate. There's a land for Czosnowsk, and he'll just pass the turn back.
Yeah, but now with 5 mana, as well as 3 blue total sources, Brandon could have something like a combo of Disallow plus Negate to clean it up nicely. Wouldn't be surprised here if Zach just plays land 7 and slams Godfarrow's Gift. You want to try to burn Brandon out of counterspells, and if you're able to do that, eventually, hopefully something resolves and sticks.
Well, he does have 7 lands, does have that Godfarrow's Gift in hand, and he's looking at a couple copies of Refurbish too, so he's got a couple of ways that he can go about doing business here. Surprised. He's not going to play anything, which is a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, with most of your deck being sorcery speed, it's possible he just has Cast Out and he just wants Brandon to tap out for something like Teferi, use Cast Out, untap, then go for double spell, and that might overload Brandon's resources. And with Brandon missing land drops, taking no action is fine. You just saw Brandon discard a Syncopate. That's exactly where Elsik wants Brandon to be.
Yeah. Here's Champion of Wits. See if this one will resolve. Zach has at least 1 card he's happy to discard here and Chart a Course. Picked up another copy of Refurbish. There's also a copy of Shalai in hand now. Yep, Chart of Course going to go to the graveyard here. And now I'm curious if we're going to see him start to just let it rip with Refurbish, and he's just going to wait still. As there's land number 6 for Czosnowsk. Back to Elsik will go. He'll draw.
I really like attacking here. Zach did this last game where he attacked before trying to put Godfarrow's Gift on the battlefield, just trying to bait out something like Torrential Gearhulk.
I think that's smart, actually.
Yeah. Interesting enough, Brandon actually drawing a few too many planes here. He actually doesn't have access to double Disallow, but he still could cast Disallow Negate.
Shalai will get countered there by the Disallow. And again, Elsik is just trying to run him out of counter spells, and it looks like Elsik has no interest in attacking with the champion. It's not really about that this game, because there is an island there for Czosnowsk, so he's starting to find a little bit more mana. Had some mana issues early on in the game, but working himself out of them. He'll cycle Irrigated Farmland will Elsik on Czosnowski's end step.
If he attacks with the Champion of Wits, it actually unlocks Brandon's mana to be able to use Seal Away to deal with it.
Sure.
Whereas later on, he might put Brandon in a position where he doesn't have the ability to utilize that 2 mana when he wants him to. And with so many cards in hand, missing so many land drops, the odds of him having something like Seal Away is pretty high.
Well, Elsik going to make his move now, finally, and he says, I'm going to cast Refurbish. That is negate to counter Refurbish, so that will not work.
Yeah, but he has land number 8 and a second Refurbish, as well as a third Refurbish in hand, so I expect him to just go for both of them this turn.
This is interesting. He is being very, very patient here. He still has cast out in hand, does Elsik. I suppose the thought process here is, I am really not in that big of a rush. I don't have to hurry. I'm underneath no pressure. So he is going to continue to be patient in this instance, and now he has found a negate. So
Bingo.
Perhaps his patience has been rewarded. That is a Plains. Here is a Refurbish.
So here you could initiate a pretty big battle from Brandon. If Brandon goes to just negate this and Zach negates back, Brandon is forced to try to interact with it. And then next turn, Zach still has access to another Refurbish.
Godfarrow's Gift is now on the battlefield. We saw in the last game, however, a cast out took care of that. Czosnowsk is going to tap a little bit of mana here. It'll be 4 total, and I think this will be 4. A blink of an eye. That's going to resolve.
It's actually pretty rough. The hand is not really where you want that card.
How about another Refurbish, though, as we have to stay in the first main phase?
I suppose if there is a psycho copy in the graveyard, that's more than fine.
It looks like there is. So now will Czosnowsk have anything as Elsik is starting to reach for the graveyard? I'm being led to believe he does not. So Elsik is going to look at the targets in his graveyard. Angel of Invention, Shalai, Voice of Plenty, and Angel of Sanctions are the options he is considering at this stage of things, as he shows our table spot of Refurbish. Now, Zach, you only get one of those.
If I'm wrong, Shalai protects all of your permanents?
It does. It protects yourself, your planeswalkers, and I believe all of your creatures, but I do want to take a look at Shalai one more time.
I feel like Shalai would be just insanely good. Okay, planeswalkers and creatures.
Yeah.
It's already a very great card. But, I mean, the fact that it has a green activated ability on it and still sees play in a number of different blue-white type strategies is pretty absurd.
That speaks volumes about how good the card is. So now, Angel of Invention is going to come back. It's been eternalized, in quotes.
Yes.
It'll bring along a couple Thopters with it. And the big Angel might be rumbling over into the red zone here. And it looks like it's going to be as we get some Star City Games
So Elsik
Thopter tokens
still
here.
not attacking with the Champion of Wits. Doesn't want to get hit with a Seal Away, which would much rather force Brandon to use something like Fumigate, and then he's able to eternalize it later on. If he taps it ever, the chances of getting exiled are very high, whether that's from Seal Away or from Settle the Wreckage.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're going to have Teferi now, but Teferi's a little late to this party, folks. It is still obviously a very powerful card. Right now it's going to draw Brandon Czosnowsk a card, and he'll untap a couple of lands.
This is the spot where Zach really wants to be in this matchup. He has an active Godfarrow's Gift, enough creatures to be able to attack to apply pressure. He doesn't have to overextend any more resources onto the battlefield. He also has a negate in hand, which is a pretty big deal, as well as a cast out to not only unlock Godfarrow's Gift from an opposing cast out, but also just to maybe take care of a Teferi.
All right, Godfarrow's Gift will trigger. It looks like it's a good time to get Shall I, and Zach Elsik will. So that'll come on back. Will another Angel. That, of course, will defend Elsik against Settle the Wreckage, since Settle the Wreckage targets a player, though I am curious if Czosnowsk actually has that in his deck after sideboard. Elsik going to line up some attacks now, figure out the best way to go about doing business.
Not attacking with the Shalai, I think, is pretty smart. And I'm pretty sure that it's not coming into the red zone right now because Brandon's one big out here would be Seal Away plus Settle the Wreckage. Now the Settle the Wreckage, not that scary since Shalai effectively keeps it from doing much of anything. But that combo of cards could be a way for Brandon to get out of this.
Here's Torrential Gearhulk. And we'll see if that's going to resolve, and it looks like it very well may, as Czosnowski is now grabbing Blink of an Eye and will target Shall I.
And it is a token, so this means it'll disappear completely. Zach with a negate here could choose to let this resolve or counter in. And since Brandon's tap out, he can't really fight back. Zach just really has to think about what's going to happen over the next few turns if he burns this negate to save his Shalai.
Well, there is that negate. That'll take care of the Blink of an Eye. Blink of an Eye is gone forever. We'll make sure that Blink of an Eye is actually exiled and not placed back into the graveyard as Czosnowski accidentally did there. Now we're going to see an irrigated farmland be cycled. And here's a cast out so that Torrential Gearhulk cannot block.
Yeah, that's a heads-up play by Zach. He could have just used the cast out on Teferi at any point, but he'd much rather not have a Teferi underneath the cast out because any sort of disenchant effect could unlock the Teferi, but now it goes to the graveyard, and Brandon will need to draw an additional copy. Teferi obviously taking 5 damage from Servo, as well as Champion of Wits when combined with the boost power of Angel of Invention.
See, Zach's going to take a look at Czosnowski's graveyard here. Zach's done a nice job of taking care of Brandon's battlefield and, you know, really just kind of one-upping a lot of the things that he's been trying to do over the course of this game. You take a look at Elsik's deck. He's got plenty of cards to work with here. Went through a lot more in that first game. Brandon, of course, does have access to Ipnu Rivulet and some deserts in his deck, so that's why he is wondering exactly how many cards Elsik has left here. He's also in a lot of trouble as he's going to cycle irrigated farmland. Picked up another copy of Teferi, did Czosnowski.
Sealway looking pretty bad here.
Oh, yeah.
Zach playing around it masterfully, not only not attacking with the Shalai, but also not attacking with the Champion of Wits until it became less relevant than dealing the damage.
Yeah, Sealaway looking like a real stinker recently, so we are going to see Czosnowski play a Teferi. It's going to go down. Shalai is going to disappear. As you mentioned, Todd, it is a token, so it is exiled. It will not go back into the deck.
Yeah, but with only access to 3 mana here, no untap from Teferi means Brandon can't cast Settle the Wreckage. And I believe with the trigger from Godfarrow's Gift, he's, how you say, Dobbs. The Vigilance on Angel of Invention means Castaway, or sorry,
Seal Away.
Seal Away, not going to get the job done with the Angel of Sanctions coming back from the graveyard.
Yeah, this is going to be a real problem here. And I think we're going to see an Angel of Invention pre-combat as well.
That's a nice one.
That's going to come on down. That can make creatures bigger, of course, given its text. Now, we'll see some more Thopters, it looks like, join the battlefield here. Those will be summoning sick. Servos, excuse me.
They don't fly.
They wish they flew.
Little ground monsters. Yeah, this should be a lethal attack with the Godfarrow's Gift returning the Angel of Sanctions with haste.
Yeah, I think the reason you see Zach have a little bit of pause here is he wants to go through the resources of Brandon's graveyard. And think about, is there a way that I don't win the game on this particular turn?
I believe Invoke the Divine, destroying Cast Out, getting back Gearhulk. Invoke the Divine on Godfarrow's Gift, puts him at 18, and a block from the Gearhulk means he doesn't die.
Well,
I think that is the only way. Because there's not that many instant sorceries in Brandon's graveyard, but if he did have Invoke the Divine, that would buy him enough life to survive this turn.
well, Angel of Sanctions is going to come back from Godfarrow's Gift. It's going to eat Teferi. Now all the creatures that can attack appear to be attacking.
It's more. You're at 10. It's a lot.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I think it's going to require Invoke the Divine.
Looks like he just has Seal Away on the Angel of Sanctions, but Teferi cannot be used at instant speed, I believe. You know what? I love it.
Yeah, get a little information on the way out the door.
Before you die, just look at the top 4 cards.
And that is
Maybe
going to do
as a
it.
troll joke.
Yeah, who knows? But Zach Elsik is going to win this deck here. Win this match over Brandon Czosnowski. 2-0. Blue-White Gift will take